Hey, guess what? It's time for Making Kayfabe with your hosts, Bryce and Dylan.
Ahoy! You have set sail for the Making Kayfabe podcast, and I'm delighted to let you know that not only have you found dry land, but also painfully dry humour. Yes, this is Bryce and Dylan here, bringing you another swashbuckling episode of Making Kayfabe, the podcast that rebooks professional wrestling's biggest missed opportunities in a way that makes sense. I'm Bryce, this Irish fella here is Dylan, and today we're going to be analysing, chatting about, and rebooking a character who is often forgotten about, but who was portrayed by a wrestler who just deserved so much better. This week we're going to be covering Paul Burchill's brief pirate run from SmackDown in 2006, but I'm going to start off with some good news. I have been able to awaken Dylan from his catatonic state after The Miz winning the WWE title at Elimination Chamber. How you feeling, dude?
We don't have time for that, I don't think. Listen, man, I'm not happy about it, but also, like, you know, it's a WWE. They're going to do garbage shit all the time, so...
Maybe at least, like, but by the time this airs, so this is Wednesday we're recording this on, he might have lost the belt to Bobby Lashley by the time this episode goes live, so, yeah. You know, fingers crossed. What do you know about Paul Burchill?
I really enjoyed Pirate Burchill. I really did. I thought the WWE was long overdue a really good pirate gimmick. And he went for it. He was very enthusiastic with it. And he seemed like a really good wrestler. And it was a damn shame that they just didn't go on. They just dropped it. They're like, nope, no more pirate. I'm like, well, why would you go to all the effort to bring this guy in as a pirate and then go, nah, we're done. No more pirate. Like, you went all that effort. You got him, zipping down. Didn't he, like, spink from a rope and shit?
He did, and it was awesome.
Yeah, like, why'd you go all that effort and just drop it? Like, at least do something with it.
It's a very WWE thing to do, like kind of the stop-start push where you get a guy coming in, you do all this cool shit for him, and then, if it's not... I don't even want to say if it's not working after 3 months, because I think Paul Burchill did work, but, generally after 3 months, so, like, drop them, and then that'll be it. Just that'll be the end of it. I mean, it's been subject to some rebookings, like Paul Burchill today, Mordecai, Sean O'Hare. It happens to a lot of guys. The Zombie, so...
Oh, yeah, the most important one.
So... yeah, it's just standard. In fact, like last time on my rebookings, I covered a superhero. Now I'm covering a pirate. In the past, I've also covered a zombie and an evil servant of God. So, like, really hitting all the key markets here at Making Kayfabe. Making sure everyone's represented.
That is a really good point. Like, you've kind of like you've not been afraid to kind of doubt, because wrestling has a lot of fun, playful gimmicks in it too, and you've not been afraid to address those gimmicks. Whereas I've done like Shayna Baszler,
seriously,
NWO, twice. Yeah. I've been like, no, the hard gritty shit. That's But then I've also done. Who did I do that was really stupid? Fucking Stevie Richards.
I was going to say Stevie Richards, but that was really well booked. That's the thing, and like, I don't think you've done anyone overly gimmicky, but I might be wrong.
Yeah, I mean, but it was just funny because, like, I have future plans to do gimmicky people. We were talking about that little spoiler alert for season 4. Me and Bryce were talking about some gimmicks, and I got a couple of gimmicky people I'd love to rebook.
Yeah, there's plenty coming for season 4 and beyond. But anyway, for today, we're going to cover Paul Burchill. Should we dive into a catch up on the life and times of Paul Burchill?
Is that like a pirate pun, like diving into the sea?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I dig it. Excellent work. Let's dive straight in to the murky waters of Paul Burchill's past.
Paul Burchill, he made his debut in 2002 after graduating from the famous FWA Academy. The FWA Academy was a very prestigious wrestling school run by Mark Sloan, and it's probably the most renowned wrestling academy in the UK at the time. FWA Academy graduates also include Spud, aka Drake Maverick, PJ Black, aka Justin Gabriel, and Drew Galloway, aka Drew McIntyre. Burchill's impressive size and agility led promotions to see just a ton of potential in him. He'd go on a 2-year winning streak, which was eventually ended by Andy Boy Simmons. That's Simmons with a Z.
Of
But
course.
but the first point I need to make clear about Paul Burchill is that he was all the rave of the UK independent scene in the early 2000s. I don't know how much you've seen of the guy outside WWE or even in WWE, to be fair, but like most of the impressive stuff was outside of WWE in the early stages of his career. For a guy his size, which was 6'4", 250 pounds, he could move, man. Like super impressive moveset. Which the cherry on top was his finishing move, the C4, which it's really hard to describe, but I can normally really describe it as a sort of like backflip rock bottom power slam, I suppose.
Yeah, it's like a moonsault slam or something like that.
Yeah,
Up the top rope. Yeah.
Yeah, he does a backflip, yeah, that kind of thing. He does it standing as well, which is just, again, amazing for a guy his size. But yeah, if you don't know it, listeners, like just look up Paul Burchill C4 on YouTube. There's like compilations and shit of it. But I believe he invented that move. Like I looked around in my research and I haven't seen or heard anyone doing it before him. But these days, like you'll normally see it used by John Morrison in his matches. But yeah, Dib was awesome. It was highly regarded in the UK. I used to watch him in the old TWC channel here in the UK, the wrestling channel, which would air the FWA shows pretty regularly. The UK scene was just awesome back then, which kind of is a testament to how much this guy stood out. He was something else, man. In 2005, he got signed by WWE and shipped to Ohio Valley Wrestling for development. But soon, he was called up to the main roster in the same year to form an alliance with our boy, William Regal, helping him beat up also our boy, Scotty 2 Hotty. So
William Regal really need help beating up Scotty 2 Hotty.
Yeah, apparently.
I gotta get out there and save William Regal.
Scotty 2 Hotty.
There's real trouble out there.
Oh boy, they tagged together and they became a fairly established team from mid 2005 to early 2006, but on Velocity.
Yeah,
occasionally the main roster, but mainly Velocity. And they had a crack at the tag team titles once in a fatal 4-way match on the October 28th SmackDown against, get this, the Mexicals, MNM, and the reigning tag team champions at the time, the Legion of Doom, in 2005, which was when...
Not the good Legion of Doom.
No.
Let's just put it that way. Not the good Legion of Doom.
This was, of course, when Road Warrior Animal recruited Road Warrior Heidenreich to just absolute critical acclaim.
Yeah.
Anyway, Regal and Burchill didn't win. Back to Velocity you go. So you might be wondering, solid tag team with William Regal, very sensible, British style wrestling. How does the pirate gimmick come about? Well, on the February 3rd, 2006 SmackDown, Regal and Burchill, they go into the office of SmackDown General Manager Teddy Long and Network Executive Palmer Cannon to inform them that they want to break up as a tag team. So Palmer Cannon notes that Regal's heritage can be traced back to, English nobility, but he's not quite sure where Burchill's ancestry stems. And thankfully, Burchill lets him know the answer. Pirates. And it turns out that Paul Burchill's, let me get this right, sorry. Paul Burchill's mother's second cousin's great-great-great-great-great-great-grandfather was the second lieutenant to Blackbeard the Pirate, the fiercest pirate in the 70s. What are the chances of that?
Wow.
And then he promises swashbuckling on SmackDown. Palmer Cannon, the network executive, he is all in with this idea. I knew when I rewatched this promo that I was going to have a lot of fun with this. Like swashbuckling on SmackDown, right? You can't go wrong with it. Mm-hmm. Next week, Paul Burchill appears backstage as a pirate, basically looking like an exact replica of Captain Jack Sparrow, where he interrupted a segment between Palmer Cannon, the Juniors, featuring future Making Kayfabe rebooking Super Porky, and Mr. Kennedy.
I forgot about Super Porky.
Yeah, he's like he's a shoe-in for Making Kayfabe rebooking. I'll tell you that.
They make it so easy for us.
Yeah, they do. Like they just do. Like, oh man. We'll circle back to Super Porky at some point, but But basically, he says hello to Kennedy and Cannon and then left. That's it. That was it. He's like, hello, and that's it. He's fucks off.
That's a great way to introduce a new character.
Yeah.
That's what pirates used to do.
He said hello.
Hey.
They greet people.
Yeah. Just, hey, how you doing? That's the most dangerous pirate of all the seven seas. Hey, man. How you doing?
February 17th SmackDown. Ken Kennedy tells Burchill that his pirate gimmick will never work, which leads to Burchill drawing his sword and holding it to Kennedy's neck, which soon resulted in Kennedy taking back his insult and saying, we need a pirate in this business. 24th of February, William Regal gets a letter from Jenny from England, a fan of his. He reads it out, mate. These segments are fucking brilliant. Like he reads it out to Burchill, and it basically says that Burchill is making Regal look bad by dressing up as a buccaneer, and also at the end of the letter it says, "Oh, William Regal, you're so gorgeous" and all of that shit. But it's because comedy. But yeah, Regal, he's annoyed that he's taken Burchill under his wing, and now he's acting like a foolish pirate. Burchill, he then hands Regal like a cartoon bomb, like a black spear with the wick attached. Mate, you don't remember any of this. This is brilliant. This is top. This is like pristine WWE. He basically hands him the bomb, and he kind of sets off the match, kind of thing. It sets off a match, but it doesn't explode. Basically, it doesn't.
Wait. Whoa. I'm sorry to derail you for a second there, Bryce. Oh, what the fuck? I love the fact that Vince McMahon is backstage thinking he wants to be a pirate. All right, what do I know about pirates? And he just thinks back to like a Looney Tunes cartoon from the 40s. I'm like, yeah, that's pirates. Fucking cartoon bomb. That'll do. I have to see this.
But you know what, man? Like the best thing is that Regal just sells it so well. Like, because he's fucking brilliant. He's incredible. Like, he was always, he's in that kind of like Kurt Angle kind of mold as like a really good serious wrestler, and you can take him seriously, but just excellent at comedy, and like him holding that bomb, like putting it from hand to hand and stuff is just hilarious. So I absolutely do recommend to go back and watch it because it's brilliant. It's so much fun.
William Regal has impeccable comic timing. Like and you can tell like that's the guy. He kind of grew up, in Blackpool, like watching all the, all those shows and seeing all those comedians and stuff. Like he's absorbed it. He has like perfect comic timing.
He's a genius. It really is. But March 3rd, Regal asked Burchill to end the embarrassment and come back to team with him. So Burchill turns it down, saying that he has his first singles match next week, and if he gets his way, it'll be against Regal. And spoiler, he gets his way. March 10th SmackDown, Paul Burchill defeats William Regal with his awesome C4 finish. Really fun match. It's worth a watch. Paul Burchill, like you mentioned earlier, had the really cool pirate entrance. Regal again sold it perfectly. He's like laughing as Burchill comes out, taking the piss out of him. But then like Burchill brings out his sword, and then Regal just immediately looks concerned. It's brilliant. Like, it's just absolutely hilarious. Regal and Burchill, they continue their feud in a very kind of comedy-esque kind of way, which involved Regal having to dress up like a pirate's wench, a gorilla, and a chicken. This just gets better and better, man. But yeah. Anyway, like this was February to April of 2006, and WWE, they scrapped the gimmick in June after Paul Burchill entered Mark Henry's Hall of Pain, where the character would never be seen again. So yeah. And apparently, I say apparently because I didn't actually find an actual source on this. It was just Wikipedia. But Vince McMahon didn't like the pirate character. He wanted Burchill's character to kind of fully believe that he was a pirate, similar to, PCO's character in 1995, John Pierre Lafitte. Shout out to PCO, by the way. I fucking love PCO. Vince never saw Burchill's pirate gimmick as a fan favourite, despite him receiving loud cheers every time he was in SmackDown. But hey, Vince knows best, right? Burchill, he went away for a while, went back to OVW, came back, he got repackaged. Returned in 2008 with his on-screen sister Katie Lee Burchill, aka Katarina, in a storyline which allegedly, according to an interview that Katie Lee did with the Kayfabe Wrestling Radio, was meant to involve incest between the brother and sister. This was thankfully saved by WWE going PG 2 weeks after their debut. Incest, not PG.
Well, that's what I really like about that. Paul Burchill went from a guy handing somebody a cartoon bomb to fucking his sister.
Much better.
Like, whoa,
Oh,
dude, they couldn't be further apart, dude.
Do you know the best thing? Like, hilariously, I actually got this from a What Culture list, which was 5 WWE incest angles we'd rather forget. There was 5.
Oh my god.
Oh man, like yeah, it's just I don't know, man. Wrestling is just
Something else.
what is wrestling? Yeah, I mean, but yeah, it was drafted to ECW in December of 2008 with Katie Leah. Had a fun feud with the Hurricane, which led to a mask versus career match, which put Hurricane's match against Paul Burchill's career. Of course, an unmasked Hurricane had most recently held the Cruiserweight Championship for 13 months, so this made perfect sense. But, Burchill lost, eventually released by WWE in 2010, and since then, he's only appeared in 11 independent matches in 9 years, having most recently wrestled in March 2019 for NGW in Germany at the recording of this episode. So one can only assume he's retired now. He focuses more these days on a career as a firefighter and a paramedic. He was quoted in an interview with WWE as saying, "Having wrestled with the best in the world, I got my fix. I didn't want people to remember me as a wrestler. I needed to go and do a little less for myself and a little more for others." So, yeah, top guy.
I mean, that's very sweet and all, but we don't remember him as a wrestler. We remember him as a pirate.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, exactly. He actually said in the same interview, he said something about, if he could come back and do the pirate, he would do it again in a split second, So, but yeah, like, let me just say, like, do you know how old Paul Burchill is as we record this in 2021?
46.
He's 41.
Oh,
like, I thought like 46 to 50, but he's 41, and like I thought he'd be way older. It turns out, during his initial WWE run, he was very young, but I mean, 41, dude. Like, AJ Styles is 43, Sheamus is 42, Jeff Hardy's 43, fucking Bobby Lashley's 44. Like,
yeah, I was gonna say Lashley's like 40 something. Yeah.
Yeah, like these are guys who are all a staple of WWE programming right now, and they're featured every single week. They were just part of Elimination Chamber, and that just kills me because if Paul Burchill was 41. If he wanted to return to wrestling, he absolutely could. And I guarantee he could still get it done in the ring. And you and I were talking before this episode about, WrestleMania being pirate themed this year, which, is just perfect. But I don't know, like, maybe we'll see a Paul Burchill appearance, maybe not. But I hope we see him back. But that's Paul Burchill. Dude deserved better. And I think his pirate gimmick could have been a winner. It deserved more than a 4-month run in SmackDown anyway, so I'm going to rebook it. But have you got anything you want to cover before we go into it, my friend?
I mean, we covered cartoon bombs and incest, so I don't know what else I need to.
Everything else.
The two things I always ask you about, we've covered them already, so I guess we should just jump into it.
All right, let's go for it. Let's rebook Paul Burchill. So, do you want to know what my favourite part of this rebooking is? Last rebooking I did on the Hurricane, I really wanted to use William Regal as the villain, but I couldn't because he was out injured at the time I was booking. Luckily, Stevie Richards exists, so I could use him. But this time though, I have William Regal available, and just that right there makes me so happy. Not only that, but he's already very involved in the genesis of Paul Burchill's pirate character. So anyway, so basically we're gonna have a lot of fun here.
Wait, are you telling me we're not gonna see Stevie Richards in this?
Not this time, I'm afraid. Spoiler alert. No.
Okay.
But can't you got your Stevie Richards fix in season 1 and also in season 3 doing the Hurricane episodes. So we can only do so much. You don't want to overkill Stevie Richards because
that's true.
I know you can't get too much of a good thing, but Stevie Richards, man.
That's fair enough.
But yeah, I'm going to kick things off here just before Pirate Paul Burchill fights William Regal. So, in my opinion, that's not a match you should give away so easily. You should build up to it and establish Burchill a bit before defeating his natural enemy, his former tag team partner who he has besmirched, William Regal. So, Paul Burchill's debut match will not be against William Regal. It'll be against a man who, as I mentioned, he's had a couple of interactions with already, as noted, Ken Kennedy. And that just makes sense. You've got to kickstart Paul Burchill's new gimmick as a force to be reckoned with. He's not just a pirate, he'll kick your ass. And since he's been in 2 seconds with Ken Kennedy already, it just makes sense. Kennedy and Burchill literally had no more interaction with each other in real life. Why the fuck? So on SmackDown, we're going to get him in a match with Ken Kennedy. It'll be a featured match in the show. Tonight we're going to see Paul Burchill, the Pirate, going one-on-one with Ken Kennedy. Really sell it like a big deal. And for the match, we're going to get William Regal come out on commentary, and he's just going to talk shit about Burchill when he's wrestling. He's a disgrace, he's an embarrassment, etc., etc. And we're going to have a competitive back-and-forth match between Burchill and Kennedy, but Burchill's going to occasionally get the better of Kennedy with reversals, which will cause Regal to flip out. He's making a bloody mockery of you, Kennedy. Eventually, this is going to escalate where Burchill gets the better of Kennedy. Regal rises up from the commentary desk. He shouts instructions to Kennedy, distracting him, which sends Ken Kennedy right into a Paul Burchill C4 for the 1-2-3. Paul Burchill wins his debut match as a pirate. He's beating Ken Kennedy. By the way, Paul Burchill's C4 finish at this point was called Walk the Plank, because gimmick. After the match, Paul Burchill's going to celebrate, and Regal and Kennedy are going to argue in the ring. Ken Kennedy is pissed off that Regal cost him the match, and Regal's pissed off that Kennedy made Burchill look good. He wanted Kennedy to embarrass Burchill. So now Paul Burchill has two enemies. He's got Regal as an enemy, and he's got Kennedy as an enemy. And the next week in SmackDown, you're going to have William Regal come down to the ring alone. He's going to be wearing a big suit, just like William Regal usually does. He's got a microphone in the hand, and he's going to make a plea to SmackDown's authority figures. He's going to say, Palmer Cannon, I beg of you, you cannot let this miserable toe rag Paul Burchill embarrass me any further. Enough is enough. I have lent my entire legacy to this buccaneer, and he's making a mockery out of everything I've ever done. It cannot continue. So remember, as I mentioned earlier, Palmer Cannon was the representative of the network at that time, so he technically had more swing than Teddy Long did. He was a heel authority figure to Teddy Long's face back then because he was, quote, the network, unquote, and he'd do his best for ratings. Apparently, just as a sidebar, this was an inside joke within WWE because the UPN network had made them remove Muhammad Hassan from television the previous year, because we all know what Muhammad Hassan was doing. Anyway, he's making his speech, but then all of a sudden, the crowd are going to slowly react to a man who's made his way down to ringside, unbeknownst to Regal, and a rope is going to wrap around the ankles of William Regal. So Regal, he barely had a chance to look down and see what's going on before Paul Burchill, he hoists the rope, causing Regal to fall on his arse and zip under the bottom rope as, Paul Burchill drags him up the entrance ramp. And, Regal's still going to have the microphone in his hand, all the way up the ramp. He's going to be shouting, stop, you bloody animal. But Paul Burchill, he's not going to listen. And, or maybe he just can't hear his former mentor over the roar of the crowd. And he's got a big smile on his face. He drags Regal behind the Titantron's curtain. And that's that. That's the end of the segment. So, just Paul Burchill has embarrassed William Regal again. And later that night, you've got Regal walking backstage. He walks past Mr. Kennedy, who's just laughing his ass off at him. Last week, Kennedy got embarrassed by a pirate, but this week, Regal got embarrassed by a pirate. So Kennedy is just happy to see Regal get his comeuppance. Regal, of course, not a fan of being humiliated, and certainly not a fan of being laughed at. So Kennedy, he asks Regal, what did he do when you got backstage? And Regal replies, nothing. The cretin, he just let me go. He only wanted to bloody embarrass me again. And I don't appreciate you laughing at me. Then Kennedy, of course, he's all like, what are you going to do about it? And things get a bit heated between the two. But thankfully, SmackDown General Manager Teddy Long just happened to be walking by. So Teddy Long is going to address the both of them, Regal and Kennedy. And he's going to be all, hold on a minute there, player. You two both seem to be having problems with our local buccaneer, Paul Burchill. I think there's only one way to settle that, player, and that's to have a match. So next week on SmackDown, it's going to be Ken Kennedy versus William Regal, and the winner will get a chance to wrestle Paul Burchill at WrestleMania 22. And there's the stakes. They're looking pretty high. Already, our man Paul Burchill has got a guaranteed match at WrestleMania, and maybe we're moving a little bit fast there, but realistically, Paul Burchill, he's been built up since February with all of these segments, so the guy would be ready for an opening match at WrestleMania on the card, or you could even do pre-show if you had to, but for the sake of his character, I'd want him in the next big show, which just happens to be WrestleMania around this time. I'd want him on that card. So anyway, Paul Burchill dragging Regal away and the Regal Kennedy Teddy Long interaction, that would have been the March 17th SmackDown. The match between Regal and Kennedy is going to be the March 24th SmackDown, and WrestleMania is April 2nd. So basically, we're still going to have one more week of build as well after Regal and Kennedy fight for who faces Burchill. So March 24th SmackDown, it's William Regal versus Ken Kennedy. Who's going to win the match and go on and get the revenge on Paul Burchill at WrestleMania? Any guesses?
Tugboat?
No, not Tugboat.
I thought he might have been like a surprise entrant, because you know how they like to mix things up sometimes. But if there are no surprise entrants, I would have to say probably William Regal.
Okay, so let me tell you how this goes. So Paul Burchill, he's going to come down to ringside for the match. He's going to sit at commentary in full pirate gear, but he's not going to be doing any commentary. Ken Kennedy comes out, does his entrance. William Regal comes out, does his entrance. And then the timekeeper is just about to ring the bell until Regal stops him. Regal, he grabs a mic and he addresses Pirate Paul Burchill at ringside, and he says, "Now, I've done some research on your Buccaneer ancestors, and I know your type, Burchill. You're sitting yourself at ringside there because you want to cause some kind of ruckus at ringside that will distract myself and this gentleman standing across the ring from me. Well, not on my watch. You have disrupted my plans more times than I can count, so I'm going to make sure you cannot interfere. I have Palmer Cannon to thank for this one, not that useless pillock Teddy Long. Security." And then you're going to get 3 security guards approaching Burchill. They're not going to throw him out the building or anything. They're just going to stand in front of him so that he can't interfere in the match. Paul Burchill, he shrugs his shoulders. What are you going to do, Now he's just upset that his view of the match is partially obscured. Anyway, finally, the bell rings to start the match between William Regal and Ken Kennedy. But in a shock twist, the 3 security guards hired by William Regal turn around and start beating up Paul Burchill. So Paul Burchill is taken by a complete surprise here. He's helpless. He can't resist the beating as much as he tries. In the ring, Regal and Kennedy, they're not wrestling. They're smiling. Regal still got the microphone in his hand, and he and Kennedy exit the ring together. Meanwhile, the security guards they're just holding Pirate Paul Burchill so that he can look up at Regal and Kennedy, but, also so he can't attack them. So something's clearly fishy here. Something's going on. Regal and Kennedy, they approach Burchill together and they kind of leer over him. Meanwhile, the referee is in the ring like, what the fuck? This is meant to be a match, guys. The bell rang. Both competitors, they've left the ring, so all the ref can really do is do his duty. He starts to count both William Regal and Ken Kennedy out. 1, 2, 3, 4. Regal and Kennedy, they're not moving. 5, 6, 7, 8. They're paying no attention to the referee. They're still leering over Paul Burchill. 9, 10. The match is over. Tony Chimmel, he gets on the mic and he announces that the match has a double count out, and the crowd boo. Burchill looks confused, but Regal and Kennedy both have, big Cheshire cat grins on their faces. Our boy Willie Regal, he's got the mic again, and Paul Burchill, he's trying to fight away the security guards, but to no avail. They have him by the arms, so he can't move really. Ken Kennedy, he lays in a few punches to add insult to injury, while Regal explains exactly what's going on. Regal says, "Thank you once again to Network Executive Palmer Cannon for allowing me to organise my own security guards this evening. Lads, you've done an excellent job. Now, Paul, you look mighty confused, my boy. Who are you facing at WrestleMania? Why didn't Kenneth and I fight each other so that one of us could fight you?" Well, as also confirmed by Palmer Cannon, if our match was to end in, a tie, or a double disqualification, or say, a double countout, then it wouldn't be just one of us facing Paul Burchill at WrestleMania 22, but both of us. That's right, Paul, you've embarrassed 2 very powerful enemies, and in just a couple of weeks, you're going to pay the price for it. At WrestleMania 22, it's going to be Paul Burchill versus William Regal, versus Ken Kennedy in a triple threat match. And you're going to have Regal deliver a big slap to Paul Burchill's face as security guards hold Burchill back. Maybe you've got Michael Cole screaming on commentary and saying, you might as well call it a damn handicap match. And let's be honest, essentially, it is a handicap match. It's pure Paul Burchill going up against two villains who hate his guts. The Pirate is in quite the pickle. But that's good, because you need a mountain for the babyface to climb. You've got to have him against the odds. So the next week on the SmackDown before WrestleMania, March 31st, you're going to convince everyone that Paul Burchill stands a chance against these two men that he's feuding with. I mean, the guy's technically only had one match in his new character at this point in time. Sure, he's beat Ken Kennedy, but we need to showcase him a little bit more before Mania. So you know what we're going to do? Remember those three security guards? They just happened to be local wrestlers playing the role of security guards. And that means it's going to be Paul Burchill versus Security Guard 1, Security Guard 2, and Security Guard 3 in a 3-on-1 handicap match. And obviously this is going to be a showcase for Burchill. Have this Buccaneer fully establish himself as a credible star by taking on these three guys and winning. In the match, you can just show everything that Paul Burchill's capable of. Put his athleticism on show, put his power on show, get the crowd cheering for him. In the end, you'd obviously beat them, and maybe he hog ties all three of them for laughs. Just to totally solidify Burchill's domination. After the match, Kennedy and Regal, they're going to come out and they're going to chastise Burchill like big bastard heels. They'll chat shit. They'll tell Burchill how they're going to make his life a misery at WrestleMania, blah, blah, blah. But then, holla, 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 Teddy Long's going to come out and he had an announcement to make about this triple threat match at WrestleMania 22. So he tells Burchill, Regal, and Kennedy that he was overruled by Palmer Cannon for sanctioning the match. And how he thinks it's disgraceful because Regal and Kennedy's intentions to work together to get revenge on Paul Burchill have been made blatantly clear. He can't stop the match happening, but he can maybe change the mentality of two competitors in the match. And that's because there's now going to be something at stake for the triple threat match. The winner of the match between Paul Burchill, William Regal, and Ken Kennedy will receive a shot at the US title. So Regal and Kennedy, they're kind of looking at each other in shock. They can't just team up and Paul Burchill and call it a night now. Now they need to be wary of one another. Because here's the deal. They're both selfish heels. They both want a shot at the US title, and they're very aware that, even if they take out Paul Burchill, that they're going to have to go through each other to win the match and get that title shot. Anyway, Teddy Long dances and then he leaves. He did a lot of dancing, Teddy Long.
He did, yeah.
And now it's time for WrestleMania 22. And by the way, I just want to have a sidebar here quickly and draw attention to one match in particular from WrestleMania 22. This one's good. On the WrestleMania 22 pre-show was an 18-man interpromotional battle royale. Can you guess, Dylan, who won it?
Yes, I can, because I was actually reading a Wikipedia article about this very man about 2 days ago. So I believe this 18-man battle royale was won by no other than Big Daddy B, Viscera.
It was fucking Viscera, my boy.
He won a match. He won a match.
He won at WrestleMania. He won a match at WrestleMania.
Oh my god, that's true. He won a match at WrestleMania.
How cool is that? And the best part is he won it by last eliminating Gene Snitsky. So 2000.
That Snitsky comes back in and then kicks Viscera into the audience.
Yeah, callback. Man, 2006 was the fucking glory days of wrestling.
What the fuck was happening that year? Good God.
It's the best days of our lives were happening, my friend. That's what was happening. Such a wonderful event. And by the way, I also note it down. Do you want to know who else is in the Battle Royale?
It's Stevie Richards.
Yes.
Yes! Finally, we got another Stevie Richards shout out.
And do you know who else?
Oh, let me Tugboat?
Funaki.
Yay!
It's a Making Kayfabe wet dream.
Yeah. Was the zombie in it?
No, he wasn't. He didn't debut until later that year. Oh, yeah, you need to brush up on your zombie history.
That's true. That's my mistake. I'm sorry.
Anyway, Making Kayfabe wet dreams aside, we've got a triple threat match to talk about. And I'm not entirely sure where you put this in the card. Like I mentioned earlier, I'd be hesitant to say main card because it's already so stacked. So maybe since it's a number one contendership match with the US title, it goes on the pre-show main event for now, or like very early in the main show. Because realistically, you've already got a US title match on that show between JBL and Chris Benoit. But either way, the match happens at WrestleMania. It has to, because we've got to feature Paul Burchill and keep the momentum going in his character. If you leave him out of WrestleMania, what does that say about him? Fucking Funaki was in a battle royale and Paul Burchill doesn't get in WrestleMania,
Fucking Viscera won a match at WrestleMania. You can put Pirate Burchill on it.
Long overdue, Viscera winning a match at WrestleMania, I have I'm not going to talk through the entire triple threat. I honestly think the match writes itself. Regal and Kennedy, they're going to get the heat on Burchill for a while. They're going to take the pirate out of the equation. But then, of course, they're going to get in each other's way, have a disagreement, and start kicking the shit out of each other. Eventually, that's going to lead to Burchill taking them both by surprise, getting the pin on William Regal, while Ken Kennedy is out of the ring, selling a C4. So, basically, Paul Burchill gets his win over William Regal. But it's after the match where we're going to get Mr. Burchill his WrestleMania moment, because after he beats Regal, Ken Kennedy's going to be all, screw this, and he'll fuck off to the back. He's done with this feud. But this leaves William Regal alone with Paul Burchill. And Regal also. He's still selling the effects of Burchill's finisher. He's dazed and confused, which is going to give Burchill time to drag Regal to the top of the entrance ramp. And now, you know where... Let me just try and get you to picture this. We're at the top of the entrance ramp to the side of the stage. You've got a little kind of drop-off point, where... Kane jumped off onto the Big Show to win the Hardcore title at WrestleMania 17, where the New Age Outlaws dropped Cactus Jack and Terry Funk in the dumpster, where Kane yeeted that Ryder off the stage in a wheelchair. You catch my drift, right? You know where I'm at. So from here, from this part of the stage, you're gonna have a 10-foot long plank of wood outstretched over the stage. And below this 10-foot long plank of wood, you're going to have some kind of, like a hot tub or like a kiddie's paddle pool, basically something that can, a Shark Tank, why not? Basically something that can hold a fair amount of water for someone, for example, to fall into. Mm-hmm. So Pirate Paul Burchill, he's got William Regal next to this plank of wood, hanging over the vat of water. You see where I'm going with this?
I do. At least I think I do.
So, as much as I love William Regal, as much as I fucking adore the guy, and he'll forever be my top 5 ever, the guy, we mentioned this earlier, he's an expert at making a total arse about himself. He's just great at comedy, and, maybe he'd tell you that too. There's just so many classic, hilarious Regal comedy moments in wrestling, whether he's drinking tea, the Jericho Piston, dressing up as Goldust, dancing with Crime Time, whatever. The guy is perfect for memorable comedy moments in wrestling, and I still implore you to go and check out the old Paul Burchill William Regal segments on SmackDown, because just absolutely brilliant. But when Regal wakes up, when he wakes up at the top of the ramp, we're going to make William Regal walk the plank, because pirates. Paul Burchill he's going to prod him with his sword. Regal is going to sell it like only Regal can, walking the thin plank right to the end, and then he's going to plummet into the water, which obviously will get a huge reaction from the crowd. Paul Burchill is the star of the moment. William Regal and Ken Kennedy have done an excellent job of kickstarting his pirate gimmick, and the sky is the limit from here. Well, it would be if pirates could fly, but they can't. They sail. So the sea is the limit for Paul Burchill here. And you know what else?
I would have said the horizon.
The horizon is a limit here. That's a good way to put it. Yeah, cool. We'll say that. But you know what else? Paul Burchill, he won the match, and that means, as per the stipulation, that he is next in line for a shot at the United States Championship after WrestleMania was held by Big Bastard JBL. And what a feud that would be! Big bucks money tycoon versus vicious babyface pirate. Maybe in that feud, you've got Paul Burchill stealing JBL's limo and selling it for gold doubloons. Maybe you make the feud Paul Burchill's search for buried treasure. The buried treasure that's tied around the waist of JBL. Maybe Paul Burchill thinks that JBL stands for just a bloody landlubber. Maybe JBL attempts to call the police in Burchill for piracy. The possibilities are endless.
Those are some good jokes, people. Those are some really good jokes, guys.
It would be an awesome feud. It would be a really good feud. So, And hey man, there's still a lot you could do with the pirate character. After that, just have him do fucking pirate things. Like have Burchill like
just to make him give a bomb to William Regal.
Yeah, that kind of stuff. Like just steer well away from incest and go right into the cartoon bombs. That's where you should. That's your ideal point right there. But yeah, maybe you can have like Burchill rob people of their belongings. Maybe you can have Burchill recruit his own pirate crew. Like there's plenty of people in the roster in 2006 who could recruit into his crew to elevate them. Like I don't know, super crazy Shannon Moore, like fucking Balls Mahoney. I'm just throwing names out here, but assign him like a lady pirate friend. Someone like Ashley Massaro would have been perfect for that. And like, do I see Paul Burchill with a pirate as a main event gimmick? Possibly not. Especially if you portray him as pure comedy for years on end and have him become a Santino Marella. But like, I mean, just look at Paul Burchill, man. Like, do you know how many promotions would kill to have a guy like Paul Burchill these days? A guy like him who's 6'4", built like a brick shithouse, who can do backflips and shit. I feel that it would be crucial to start Burchill off as a comedy character like this, and then develop him into a character who you just do not want to fuck with over time. And if you did that, and if you invested the time, you would easily have a big fan favorite out of Paul Burchill. And like, the thing that pisses me off is that WWE were on the right track for this. The segments they wrote for Paul Burchill were amazing, and again, I implore you to go back and check them because they really were. They were unique, but they just didn't keep the foot on the gas, and they gave up on him after 3 or 4 months, jobbing him out to Big Mark Henry, and it's a damn shame because I know it's unlikely, but I really hope we see Paul Burchill return to pro wrestling someday. Like the guy could have been huge. And that's my rebooking of Pirate Paul Burchill. What do you think?
I liked it, man. I did. I really did. It's another one of those cases where you don't have to make it like a super grandiose booking or whatever. But what you did was you took this guy who didn't really get a good chance, right? He was a guy, they just brought him in. They said he was a pirate, and then they dropped the gimmick. But what you did was you took this guy who was just kind of pretty much starting off there fresh. You needed to set him off on the right foot, Once you do that, people are going to dig him. You just need to establish him first. And that's exactly what you did here. You just very clearly, succinctly, good, simple storyline, sets up a match at WrestleMania so that you're going to get eyes on him. Yeah. Boom, straight away, He hasn't, just... And
boom,
again,
cartoon bomb.
Boom, exact cannons going off. Boom, right? But like, and again, like match-wise, nothing overcomplicated there. You kept everything very simple, but it's a good storyline. It makes sense, and it gets eyes on Burchill. It's good shit, and like you wonder why they can't do simple shit like this in real life.
Yeah, exactly. And like, you might not remember Paul Burchill beating William Regal and Ken Kennedy at WrestleMania, but the one thing you will remember is Paul Burchill making William Regal walk the plank, because that's just the kind of moment that you remember. Like, you don't remember the entire Edge versus Mick Foley match at the same WrestleMania, but you sure as hell remember Edge spearing, Mick Foley into the flaming table. It's things like that that stand out in people's memories and people's minds, and like, it's those kind of things that make a star. And it could have been so easy to just do that with Paul Burchill in this gimmick. And like I say, WWE, they had they were doing really well, and they had some really funny shit going on, and some really, the crowd were behind the guy, and they were loving him. He was getting huge pops when he came out, and then just they lost interest like they always do, and just poor Paul Burchill didn't get a fair shake.
Yeah, it's unfortunate, man. But he got a fair shake in your story. So,
that's why we're here. That is why we're here.
We made everything good. That's what we do. We make everything good.
we put a little band-aid on the on the lacerations in pro wrestling. I think that's that's one way to put it.
Is that our new slogan? Is just we make everything good? Yeah,
we make everything. Like, even the bad things, we'll make them good. So don't worry about it.
All good. Yeah.
Kayfabe Tombola.
Yay!
It's that time again, my friend. Kayfabe Tombola, everyone's favourite game. For those listening to their first ever Making Kayfabe episode, welcome, and I'll explain the rules of Kayfabe Tombola to you right now. So, Every week, whoever hosts the episode is going to have 4 random wrestlers and 4 random scenarios, numbered 1 to 4 and lettered A to D. The co-host for the episode, which is Dylan this week, will give me a number letter combination like a 1A or a 2B or a 4C, and then he'll have 60 seconds to spin the greatest wrestling storyline ever with the wrestler and scenario that he's been given. Last week we had Trash Holly winning Tugboat's boat championship on a boat, so things can get pretty wacky here. This week's Kayfabe Tombola comes from the All-Star, Chris CJ Johnson on Twitter. You can find him at VS the Janitor. That's V for Victor, S for Sierra, the Janitor. And Chris, my man, thank you for your awesome Kayfabe Tombola submission today. Thank you for being an awesome part of the Making Kayfabe community. And Dylan, there's some fucking excellent picks here, dudes. So without further ado, give me your finest number letter combination.
I would like 4B, please.
4B, please. Okay,
4B,
let's see what we got here.
If you please.
Okay. This could be a good one. So, do you want to know who you could have had?
I hope I'm all Reno.
Oh, I've got some bad news for you. So you could have had Otis.
Okay.
You didn't get Otis.
We did him. We've already booked him.
He's been rebooked. Yeah, he's a Making Kayfabe rebook in season 2. You also, by the way, Otis turned heel on SmackDown this week. So yeah,
you see where that's going?
Yeah, exactly. It's the same way as my story, I bet.
Vince McMahon, fuck Triple H loves this shit.
Yeah, there's just like one. I look at the podcast analytics, and there's one listener in Stamford, Connecticut, or something. Like, who could that be?
Yeah, just the one.
Just at one, yeah. They listen together. But hey, you didn't get Otis. You could have had Apollo Crews.
Ooh, okay.
Didn't get Apollo Crews.
That would have been good.
You could have had Baron Corbin.
Oh, okay.
Dodged the bullet there.
Yeah.
But who you did get was Titus O'Neil.
Okay.
So for scenarios, what you didn't get was, so you could have had Titus O'Neil takes a busted set of scales to 205 Live to dominate the Cruiserweight division.
Okay.
You didn't get that one. You could have got Titus O'Neil has hatched a devious plan to win the 24/7 title.
Oh, I wish I got that one.
You didn't quite get that one.
Oh, that would have been great.
Did you say 4B or 4D?
I said 4B.
B, cool. So you could have had Titus O'Neil, bear with me on this one. Titus O'Neil has a new gimmick where they couldn't make a show because their paddle boat drifted out to sea and are now cast in a series of vignettes like Tom Hanks in Castaway. You didn't get that.
That would have been perfect for the show. The pirate
show.
It
would have been. Yeah, exactly. Like it would kind of echo the Tugboat Boat Championship last week. But...
Yeah.
Oh,
I like how
boy.
they're starting to get like nautical themed, you know? I like this. Let's keep this up. Let's get the sailor ship going, you know?
More nautical Kayfabe Tombolas. Right, do you know what you did get?
Yes, please.
You got Titus O'Neil enters a tournament where the winner becomes the cover star of the next 2K game.
Okay. So it
Titus
enters
O'Neil.
a tournament where the winner becomes the face of the video game.
Yes. Face of the next net video game, next 2K game, which I think is going to be 2K22, maybe 2K22. I don't know.
I'll make it up.
Yeah.
Okay.
But all right. So, are you ready to rock and roll with that?
Yeah, let's just fucking let's
do it.
Let's do it.
All right. I got a minute on the clock. So. You have 60 seconds, my friend, to tell me all about how Titus O'Neil enters a tournament where the winner becomes the cover star of the next 2K game. I'm going to count you down from 3, 2, 1. Play the game.
All right, so there's this WWE announces a big tournament to see who's going to be the face of the next video game because they think that's going to make people pay attention to their shitty video game. It's probably not, but they're like, hey, here we go. So we'll have a tournament with all our famous faces in it, but we'll have one space left for people to vote in their favorite person they want to vote in. So, like, loads of people are in the tournament, like John Cena and Randy Orton, big famous, characters that would be on the face of a video game. But there's a glitch in the system on the website. So instead of like voting for the person people actually wanted to see, the glitch made it so that Titus O'Neil won the competition. So he is entered into the tournament. And everybody's like, shit, dude, we can't have Titus O'Neil. Like nobody knows who the fuck he is. What? We can't have him in the video game. So the tournament starts off, and in the tournament we've got Titus O'Neil, and he's up against the big boys, How's he going to survive in this tournament? Who is he up against first? Why, it's only The Undertaker, because he would be good on the face of the video game, right? So, Titus O'Neil, this is round 1 of the tournament. Titus O'Neil fights The Undertaker and almost immediately loses. So, hey, all I had to do was say he entered the tournament. I didn't say he had to win it.
He just looked at you. That's it. You actually said that right in the. You said that right in the minute mark as well. So that was perfect.
Well,
He fucking loses.
Because that's it. Like Titus O'Neil, he can enter it. He can enter it all he wants. Doesn't mean he's gonna win the tournament.
Yeah, it's the winner becomes a cover star. So it doesn't mean he has to win it. Exactly. Like, yeah, I like your thinking. Yeah, outside the box.
He did the best he could, and he got beaten by the Undertaker, just like 99% of everybody else.
I like how he got there as well. A little kind of website hack. I like that.
Yeah, Jack. I don't know.
Who's hacking the website to make Titus O'Neil win polls? That's what
it was just like a glitch in the system.
Oh, a glitch. Okay,
yeah,
right.
They didn't mean to. They go, 1 in 250,000 chance of it happening, but it happened.
Hey man, you say 2K games are shitty. I agree with you, but I'm sitting at my desk right now with a copy of Here Comes the Pain for the PS2, and let me tell you, man, what a fucking game!
Yeah, I still have my PlayStation, the PlayStation 1 with SmackDown and SmackDown 2 in it.
Yes, incredible. Oh man, like after school every day, like me and my mates used to go back to mine and play Hell in a Cell matches on on SmackDown 2. Like just such a good game. But anyway, don't forget, as a Making Kayfabe listener, you can be just like Chris Johnson here and get your tombola featured on the show. Just send 4 wrestler names and 4 scenarios via DM on Twitter at Making Kayfabe, or send them in an email to makingkayfabe@gmail.com. Thank you once again to Chris Johnson for submitting that. That was awesome. Some really good scenarios there. That was good fun. Well, another episode down, folks. That's the 7th of the season and 27th Making Kayfabe rebooking overall. Thank you for listening. We hope you liked our rebooking of Paul Burchill, and if this is your first time listening to us, why not go back and listen to who else we've rebooked? I mean, we've rebooked plenty of fun stories, from CM Punk to the ECW Zombie, from Mike Awesome to Right to Censor, from Sean O'Hare to Otis Dozovich that Dylan mentioned earlier. They're all available wherever you listen to this on. You can find us on Twitter at Making Kayfabe. Get involved, check out our posts. We've always got some fun stuff on there, like on Wednesdays where we give a bit of an obscure clue for the next episode, and then you've got to guess which wrestler it relates to. You can also email us your feedback at makingkayfabe@gmail.com. You can buy our awesome Making Kayfabe t-shirts at Dylan.
makingkayfabe.redbubble@website.com.
At Making Kayfabe, you're so close. At makingkayfabe.redbubble.com, and hey,
it wasn't close at all.
No, being nice. And if you don't want to do that, it's cool. We can still be friends. But please at least leave us a 5-star review on whatever platform you're listening to this on. It helps us break those podcast charts and take on heavyweights like Conrad Thompson, Jericho, Bischoff, and more.
Bischoff.
Fucking Bischoff.
We're coming for Bischoff.
We're coming for him. Like we were higher than him at least 1 week in the charts. That is fact. We're coming for him again. But Dylan, you've got an epic rebooking coming next week. In fact, normally I know who it is, but I don't even know who it is. Who you got a clue for us for here doing next week?
It's a surprise. The funny thing is, if you listen to one of our bonus episodes from in between season 2 and season 3, me and Bryce discussed a lot of the suggestions we might be doing for season 3, and there's still one suggestion that I talked about in that show that I haven't done yet. So that might be the one for next week, but it'll be a big surprise. Let's put it that way.
Okay. It'll be a surprise, even though the answer's in the bonus episode.
No, but it might. No. It might be that one. I'm torn between that last Sanity booking. There's your surprise, or something else. So here's the thing: next week you're either getting Sanity or something else. That's a surprise.
Nice one. All right, that sounds good. All right, Kayfabers, nothing but love for listening to 2 wrestling fans reading fairy tales for an hour each week. Thanks for being here. We appreciate you, and we'll see you next week for another excellent, sexy, awesome episode of Making Kayfabe.